Would you rather go to any restaurant free forever or go to any theme park for free forever?
Restaurant.
Restaurant.
Yeah.
Theme park.
Yeah, I saw that one coming.
Saw
I
it
saw that one
coming.
coming. I saw it coming.
Audio.
Welcome to Second Saturday, the podcast where every Sunday feels like a Saturday.
This is episode 6. 6. And I'm Ainsley.
And I'm Jan.
Today, we're going to dive a little bit into our lodge life.
Lodge life,
the
man.
Joys of lodge life, which actually I've talked a lot about recently to people. It's actually crazy. And I actually talked about some of the stories we're about to talk about, which
cool.
is it's crazy how that's worked out.
Well, it is the fall, and I feel like that's always the wrap up to the lodge life. So, and I feel like this was always the time where we were like just together as a family, like because the guests were gone, and I mean some of our crazy antics happened in the fall, but
I feel like this time, like with the weather, whenever there's like a cool day and like if I'm at home and like the fire's on or something, or just like that just reminds me of like when we go up on the weekends or when we go for Thanksgiving and like we all, you know what, it's just those are the most like nostalgic moments. I think like the deja vu, like agreed. I've been in this, like what is happening.
Yes, we had the fire on a couple of times in the last week or so, just because we're too cheap to turn on our in-floor heat, so it's kind of cold. But when I would get up in the morning and my husband would have the fireplace already going and crackling, totally hit me with lodge life. Totally hit me with the lodge life. So, yeah.
Anyways, would you rather? I mean, I'm not shocked that you picked theme park.
Well, and there's like, you have to really look at the question. Would you rather to go to any restaurant? It's not all restaurants. It's any restaurant for free forever.
Oh, I didn't think about
that.
Right?
You didn't read the question. Or would you go to any
answer?
Right? It's not like you're eating for free at every restaurant, Ainsley.
Yeah. I changed my answer. I'm going theme park.
Yeah, we're going together. We're so going together.
Oh, yeah.
So now you've changed to theme park. Tell us why.
Well, probably the food. I don't necessarily need to go on rides every single day. I can do a few here and there and I'm happy. But if you're free, then you can play all the games for free and you can win everything. Oh, and the food, obviously. You
can buy more stuff. Like if you figure like, okay, so obviously the theme park of my choice is going to be Universal Studios. I mean, Canada's Wonderland in Canada is pretty cool too.
Oh, it's a lot of fun. I didn't even think about that either.
Are you choosing that one?
I was thinking Canada's Wonderland because this is just where I am, but I forgot about Universal. Oh, yeah, 100%. That's the answer.
Universal. So I'm choosing Universal. And you figure like, what is it? Like $150 just to go to the one theme park. I think it's about $300 if you want to do both of them. So I'm saving that money, which means I can then spend it on Harry Potter trinkets.
That's true.
Right? And food. So you're making money.
You are.
You're making money. So I mean, if it's only one restaurant, I mean, you get tired of going because if you had one restaurant free for your entire life, you would only go to that restaurant and then you're going to get tired of that food pretty quick.
Yeah.
Whereas if you went to the
theme park is the way to go.
Especially when you think of Universal because it's got the 2 theme parks, it's got the water park included in it.
It does.
Oh, I would be there hard.
And if you're choosing Universal, you're living in Florida.
Right?
Which means golf courses.
Maybe what I've saved on the ticket price, that I could just fly down all the time.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
Yeah. And even if I'm not going on all the rides because I get super motion sick, I can't even like look at a map in a car. I can't read a book in a car. Like I get so motion sick so quick. When my kids were little, if they were in the back of the vehicle and they're like, Mom, I need something. I'm like, you're hooped until we stop because I can't look back. If I look back, I'm done. I am throwing up. I am dizzy. I am hooped. So I wouldn't necessarily do all of like the roller coasters, but I could go on all the water rides.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can only do so many roller coasters before I start to feel sick. Not nearly as bad as you,
Hmm.
but oh, the water
The
park.
water park. That's just the icing on the cake. It's the
It
icing
is.
on the cake. It's
Oh,
so good.
now I want to go to Universal.
Right? Road
That's where
trip.
our to all our family members. That's where our family vacation is going to be.
Can you imagine if there was ever a point where we could do a podcast from like not
Universal.
obviously in the theme park, but we could be in the hotel
Yeah.
of a theme park and we could do it. Oh my gosh.
Yes. Yes. We could just
Uh,
make that week's episode could just be like a vlog.
well, we'd be vlogging every day.
We would be.
And probably twice a day. Like I would vlog
Oh
before
yeah.
we go, and then I would vlog like after we go to be like, okay, like
Yeah.
this is how it actually turned out,
Ooh.
and that's all I would do. I probably, well, I would sleep when I get home. Screw
Yeah.
that. I'll just sleep when I get home. I don't
We
care.
don't need sleep.
No, I'll sleep when I'm dead. That's my theme. I always say that. Sleep when I'm dead. I don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah. Oh,
I don't care.
we need to
I
plan
know.
a Universal trip.
We do. We do.
Yeah. That's
Okay,
in the
people.
makings. Anyways, back on track. Back on track. Well, what would you
What?
choose?
Well, I was a theme park man. I just
No,
told you.
no,
Like,
the people.
what would they want to do?
Yeah.
I'm hopped up on sugar again today.
Yeah. Before we started recording, she picks up the tub of brownies. Guess who's back on
It
her
goes
brownies?
with every podcast.
Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay.
Okay, sorry. Ask the people, Ainsley.
What would you choose? Restaurant, one restaurant of your choosing, free for the rest of your life. Or any theme park of your choosing, free for the rest of your life.
Universal Studios.
And there is only one answer here, so you will be called out if you choose otherwise.
But hey, if there's other good theme parks, let us know.
Yeah.
Let us know. I would love to because I can be open
there's
to.
some pretty cool parks in like Dubai.
Well, we haven't checked those out, Ainsley. So we can't really say until we've tried them all.
So we should try them all.
We should try them all.
Yeah.
Okay, people, like, subscribe. We need your help for that one.
Yeah.
We ain't getting to Dubai on just like just a few hits on this YouTube channel.
Yeah,
we need more likes. Share it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, but let us know. Which would you rather do? Restaurant for life? And hey, maybe you've got a super awesome restaurant and you're like, no way, man, I'm eating there all the time. They got awesome breakfast, lunch, and supper. Who knows? Let us know.
What if you were to choose, like, would the food court at a mall count as one? And then you have all those options, so you're not limited to just the one.
Not limited to one.
And they have some, like the one in Winnipeg has a little chocolate store right there and frozen yogurt, so you have all your desserts in there.
Oh my god! See, when we went to the baseball game. We talked about this, I think, in the first or second episode. Ainsley sporting her Winnipeg Gold Eyes. I almost wore that sweater today.
Should have.
Almost wore it.
But
when we went the second night, we had been at the mall and we went to the fancy pantsy, the hoop-de-doo chocolate shop beforehand. So we had like our little like specialty box bag of chocolates. Yeah. And so we're sitting there the second night and we're taking all of our specialty chocolates and then we're like cheersing them before we eat. Like we looked so stupid hoity-toity.
We looked
eating
so
these chocolates.
bougie and like better than the world.
Bougie, you nailed it, Ainsley.
We're bougie.
And that was at the food court. So, but I didn't say a food court because there's many restaurants in the food court. So, anyways, no, I think it's just
there's
restaurant.
A loophole there.
Anyways, let us know. What do you want to do? What would you rather do? What do you want to do?
What do you want to do?
What do you want to do?
What do you want to do?
You want a restaurant? You want a theme park? What do you want to do?
Theme park. If you can't tell, one of us is on sugar and one of us is finally done being sick. 3 weeks later.
We're at full strength, Ains. We're at full strength.
Yeah, we are.
Oh, we're bringing it back.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Focus.
All right.
We have a new introduction, a new little segment, if you're getting really professional with the terms.
Mm-hmm.
It's the weather report. And what kind of weather is it right now?
It's the weather.
So that's like a key vocabulary saying for her.
It's a shout out to Saturday Night Live. Yeah. Sweater weather.
She loves it. So I got her this little thing the other day that says sweater weather.
Sweater weather. I can't wait to get it. Sweater weather.
So I think I'm not gonna mail it just because I don't want this guy to break.
Fair enough.
but I'll give it to you when I see you.
Sweater
Anyways,
weather.
a little weather report because
Yeah.
now that it's fall, like kind of farther into fall, the temperatures are a little more drastic in difference between where I'm living and where you're
Yes.
living. So we're going to do a little
We're
weather report.
we are 3,000 kilometers away.
Oh, wait.
Now, I am north of the 54th parallel, which basically Santa lives just down the road from me.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's your parallel, Lindsay? Can we Google
Oh,
that while we're doing this?
yeah, I can. You
I'm gonna
talk
do it.
about you. Oh, you're going to
You
Google
you
it?
do it.
You talk
You're
about the
fast.
weather there right now.
Okay. So, anyways, I think if you noticed the first couple of episodes we did, I was in like a tank top, blah, blah. Last week, I was in a turtleneck, which you will see many because I'm a turtleneck lover, and now I'm in sweaters. It's sweater weather. So, yeah, we have had frost several days, the last few days. And I think yesterday I came to work and it was actually below freezing. Ainsley, I now have car mitts. So my mitts are
Oh,
permanently
my.
in my car or my truck. And when I get in the mornings, I put my little wool mitts on to drive to school. I leave them in there
Yeah.
because our temperature fluctuates. But I think today when I came to work, it was cloudy. So generally when it's cloudy, it stays warmer overnight because the clouds hold the heat in. Here's another lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Good Lord, I'm a fountain of knowledge. But I think it was about 7 degrees Celsius today. But the other day I came and I think it was like -1 degree Celsius.
See,
It's cold.
today, well, first of all, I am south of the 49th parallel.
Oh, that's a lot of
So
parallels.
that's about 5 parallels different.
5 parallels or 5 parallels away? Like, how far is a parallel? We need to know this. Okay, Google
Okay,
that too.
okay,
What
you
is
keep
the distance
talking.
between parallels?
Keep talking.
So yeah, I think it got up to about 10 degrees Celsius today, which is fine. But we are definitely like when I'm driving to work, the little like the side ditches and stuff that have water, they're starting to freeze over a little bit. And this is late. I actually got a memory on Facebook from yesterday, about 4 or 5 years ago, and we had 3 inches of snow. We got it in one day, and I think my caption was like, "Did we totally miss October and November?" Like, WTH. So we're still pretty mild here because, like, I'm not having to wear a giant winter jacket yet, thank
Yeah.
goodness. But yes, I now have migrated to vehicle mitts. I now have my vehicle mitts for the mornings, which is so ridiculous.
That's
So
crazy. Yeah, it's
that's
been
me.
today it was 10 degrees when I got up. Um it is just we've just hit the tipping point. Like last week we were still in like the high 20s.
Ugh,
Um
it's
and
too
for
much.
the last few days it has been colder. So, but today was a nice bright blue sunny day and it was about 15 degrees, but it was quite chilly like just cuz
Sure.
it's sunny out and it's we're hitting that fall time. Um but yeah,
I love
overall it's
how
been pretty
your
warm.
low is my high.
Yeah. So that's lovely. But it's like a really nice day. It's like the perfect
Nice.
fall temperature right now. It's perfect
Mm-hmm.
sweater weather,
Sweater weather.
if you ask me.
Okay.
Okay.
What's
Each
this?
parallel is approximately 111 kilometers apart.
Okay, so it's just over 100 kilometers apart. So we are six. I am 600 kilometers
North.
north on a parallel. Like even
Yeah.
though like
Like
so
if you
you're
went
here,
straight up.
I'm here. Yeah, you'd have to go 600 kilometers
Yeah.
up, which is a 6 hour drive
Hmm.
to get to the same. So there you go. Well, look
Look at
at
that.
that.
The more you
We're
know.
learning stuff today.
Look at that. Yeah, but it's been quite nice here. Nice. We've had a little bit of rain, but nothing crazy. Otherwise, it's been perfect sweater weather.
Sweater weather.
And I mean, this is just a start. As the winter comes, you will see that it's about -10 here and -45 there.
I know. Like we're gonna be last winter, we only had a few spells where it was like super super cold, but I feel that this winter,
It's
Mother
almost
Nature's
every
going to bring
other
it hard.
winter because a couple winters ago it was really bad.
Yeah, Mother Nature's going to bring it hard this year, and
Yeah,
I love her, but she needs to settle. But right now, she's good. She's in a
yeah.
good mood. I'll take it. Yeah, so that's where we're
Let's
at. We're
remember.
just
Let's remember the warm times by talking about some lodge memories.
Oh, those are warm times.
Yeah,
Warm times.
warm time. I mean, there were cold
Lodge.
times. A quick little gist: our family has no mercy. We do punishments. One year it was really cold, and we had to put ice in our pants.
We
That's all
did
I'm gonna
ice
say.
bomb.
We'll get there
Ice
eventually.
bomb.
Ice bomb,
Yeah.
ice bomb.
Ice
But
bomb. Ice bomb.
yeah, that was a cold summer. That was probably one of our coldest summers.
It was a cold summer. There's no denying it. Like we're
Yeah,
such idiots, but yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So we're gonna talk about the lodge today. I mean, we'll talk about it many times over because we had it for years and years and years. So there's tons
yeah.
and
I
tons of
think I
stories.
spent 14 or 15 summers there.
Then you know what? I probably spent 15 or 16 summers there
Yeah, yeah.
because
Well,
I was pregnant. So when my husband and I bought the lodge, we were already managing lodges and we had the opportunity to buy our own. And we thought, man, if we're working this hard, we should be working for ourselves. So we were ended up buying a lodge. We ended up with two in the end, but we bought our first lodge. And that fall that we bought it, I became pregnant with Ainsley. So my first summer there, Ainsley's born in the middle of summer, so I was just like this giant balloon in front of my
giant.
belly. Yeah, I can remember cooking like breakfast on the grill and I'm like, oh, like my skin's so hot. And I'd look down and my belly is touching the grill because like I was
Ay,
all
ay,
stomach.
ay.
There was
Just
it
trying to
was a
fry me up.
I was trying to fry you up. And I'm like, oh, that's not good. And so anyways, yeah. So anyways, we had this lodge and I'm just trying to think. Yeah, having babies there, it was interesting. Being pregnant was very interesting because the lodge did need a fair bit of repairs when we first bought it. We wanted to do some upgrades, as most people want to do every time they buy something. So the first thing that my husband decided to do was to tear down all the outhouses because we didn't have flush toilets, we had outhouses.
Yeah.
And then he proceeded to build all of the outhouses for all of the cabins except for ours. So that meant that when I was 8.5 months pregnant, and I was literally peeing twice a night at that point, I had to put on my shoes and go outside and squat in the bush. Whether there was a bear that was ready to eat me, just kidding, there was no bears. But if it was pouring rain, whatever the weather was, I had to go out there. And let me tell you, like, if you're 8 months pregnant and you're squatting in the bush to pee, there's no stopping. So, like, if something massive had happened, I can't just stop the flow. Like, it doesn't happen. And I just remember every night I'm out there and my husband's sound asleep in his bed, and I was like, damn you. And I was just like, oh, mind you, like at the lodge, we had an outhouse back there and whatever. I didn't have to squat every time, but just at our own cabin at the time, that was our last priority. I get it. So yeah, so there I was, pregnant, squatting, doing my biz, good
Yeah.
times. Yeah, and then so I had Ainsley. Michael came along the next winter, so he was a few months old. He was almost 6 months old, I think, when we first got to the lodge. Maybe less than that. But yeah, I had two kids under two at the
Mm-hmm.
lodge for the first little bit, and so that was really really interesting. And as I got a little bit older, like I can't tell because this is so awesome. My son Michael, my son, he's like the ultimate hunter fisherman, and so he like life at the lodge was like just the absolute perfect setting for
That
him.
was his ideal life right
It
there.
was his ideal life. So he always wanted to be on the dock with the guests. So he literally, when he got up in the morning, I would put his life jacket on and that I would not take it off until bedtime. That kid napped in his life jacket. Um, and I remember one of the first ones, like he was walking, but so the life jacket, it went a little bit past where his hips were, like where his natural bend in his legs, his hips were. So if he would fall over, like, and he was only what? He wasn't even two. When he
Yeah.
would fall over, he couldn't stand back up because he couldn't bend at his natural bending point of his body. So my husband and I cut the bottom of the life jacket. We cut out about maybe an inch and a half of foam so that stopped before the bend in his natural bend in his legs. And then I just kind of hand stitched it back up so that if Michael fell over, my son fell over, he could get back up on his own. But literally,
Just
well,
see him
and
laying around. Help me!
oh yeah, help
Help
me,
me! It's like a
fall, I
turtle
can't,
on his back.
right? And he just, both of you just lived in your life jackets because, listen, it's a
It was
lodge on
good
the
because
water.
I'm pretty sure he got knocked into the water one time.
He a couple of times he did. So when he
Yeah.
would be, our guests would come in at the end of the day, they would have their fish to like fillet up and cook for supper or to like package it up to send it home with them. And the fillet, we had a table that would just was an extension of one of our docks. And so that way we could just like scoop up the water and scrub it all down when it was done and it would bleach dry from the sun. And so my son's in there like a dirty shirt. And so a couple of times, the guys, they'd bend over to grab their fish out of the little tub or bucket. And my son would be behind him. And it would just like, they'd bend over and just, bloop, they would just knock Michael over. And, and the first time they knocked, like he popped in the water and the water's like, what, 3 feet, 3.5 feet
Oh
deep.
yeah, it's
And so
really
Michael
shallow.
just splashed in, came up. He's bawling his eyes out. I felt so bad. The guests were like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, no, no. I said, this is the whole point of the life jacket.
Yep.
Like, I can't, I'm trying to cook and stuff, and my kids are out and around. Like, I mean, it's not that I didn't parent them with my eyes. I was fully aware. And Todd was probably my husband was out on the property at the same time.
And
It's
all
not that
our
we,
guests were really good with like
they were great.
they loved us and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
they were very so even if he had a phone in and they weren't there, they would have just picked him up. Like that's why they put
Literally
handles on the back of the
grabbed the
life
handle,
jacket.
pulled him back out, sat him up. He bawled his eyes out for like what, 10 seconds, and then he was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, more fish."
Yeah.
Let's look at the fish.
Fish guts. Ooh.
Fish guts. Oh my gosh, he used to love. He'd throw the fish guts over his shoulder, walk them down to the beach. We had a little beach area, and then he would proceed to clean them. He was cleaning fish,
Yeah.
and he would clean them on some rock there. Oh, that kid just constantly had fish slime all over his clothes. Just couldn't get it off him. He just
Yeah.
lived, breathed, slept fish. That he still loves to fish to this day, which is pretty awesome. He's a great kid. So my kids literally lived and they napped in their life jackets,
Yeah.
but they didn't care. Man, they didn't care. Then they could get up and do their thing and whatever. And
Having a
listen,
good
it
old
was
time.
all about safety. I used to tell them, I'm like, you have to be careful. You can't get hurt. And they'd be like, why? I'm like, because I don't have time to go to the hospital. I don't have time to get
Yep.
an airplane in here
We
and
didn't
fly us.
because exactly it was
Yeah,
either get a hold of an airplane and try and get them in, or it was
yeah,
an hour and a half boat ride on top of a 30-minute car ride.
yeah. Or it was too dark out. We couldn't do it. So
Yeah.
I was always saying to the kids, you need to be careful. Why? Because it's too dark for us to go to the hospital. And they were like, okay. And you guys were really good about that. You're a little bit mindful, which is good. You have to be when you're
Mhm.
living on an island like that. So yeah, so that was having little kids. It was interesting. That's for sure. Even just their basic things, like even bath time. When you're like itty bitty, I bathed you into the sinks until you couldn't literally
Fit in the
fit in
sink.
there. Your
Yeah.
chubby little legs are hanging out. And then I got Rubbermaid tubs and threw them in the shower. We had gravity fed water, so we would take a pump at the lake and we would pump it up into holding tanks. I can remember this one time. You're both standing in the shower. Gosh, Ainsley, you were probably, I don't know, maybe 3.5, 4. Maybe you're just turning 4. My son was like 2.5.
2.
So you're standing in the shower, and I got them all sudsed up, and the water's coming in, and the holding tank ran dry. And all of a sudden, the water stopped coming out of the shower. I was like, oh no, this isn't good. So you're both standing there, just totally sudsed up, just cold and just mad. And I'm like, okay, both of you just stay right here. And I had to run down to the lake and get the pump started. So I'm like priming the pump, trying to get it started to get enough water back in so
Yeah.
I can finish rinsing you off. I thought, oh, I'm not winning Parent of the Year points here.
It was okay. Yeah, we had a because
Character building.
I remember I remember our shower like when we moved into our main lodge because like when I was really little we lived in a back cabin and then
Mhm.
we converted the main lodge where like the guests ate, we converted that into a living space for us as
Yeah.
well. And so we had like the shower in there and I remember dad like rigged it up so that the curtain bar, there was a second one that was like about halfway down the shower because it was just a
Yes.
little cube single stand shower so that
Yeah.
we had a little curtain so that we didn't get water everywhere and that you could help like wash our
Yes.
hair and stuff. I remember that.
Yeah.
Um,
That was
yeah,
the
but
easiest way to
then
do it.
once we got older, it was just shower in the lake.
Yeah.
Always
Oh,
that was
yes.
yeah. Like when we switched lodges, our cabin was about 10 times smaller. And so we had a shower building which we shared, like the guests used as well because
Yeah, it was a common building.
the second lodge was very like off the grid type style.
Yeah, do your own thing kind of
Yeah.
style.
And that was another like gravity fed shower, and it wasn't a very warm shower, that's for sure. Um, and so I remember like it was every now and then you would use that shower just so you like got properly clean, so you weren't covered. I mean, it was still lake water, but at least there was
My
some sort of filter in
savages.
there.
My savages.
Um, but otherwise, on our personal dock, we had a bar soap and shampoo and conditioner permanently
Yep.
on the end of the dock,
Yep.
and we had a ladder, and that was where we showered. You'd jump in the
We didn't even
water.
have well, we had a step ladder. We had a step
Yeah,
bolted to the end. We didn't even have
it wasn't
like a
even
swim
bolted for
ladder.
a while because we used to
No,
pull it off and fall into the water with it on purpose. Um,
for
but
some
like
fancy
we didn't have
pants.
anything, and so yeah, that permanently was on the end of the dock. And you'd jump in, you'd climb back up, you'd put shampoo in your hair, and then you'd jump in and you just thrash around like you were some fish in there, and then come back out, get the conditioner, and jump back in and just thrash around again.
Yep.
That was the way
And
to do it.
we try to spike your hair like with all
Yeah.
that soap. We try to make really
And then
cool hairstyles.
if we had like guests in camp, then we'd get onto the pontoon boat and we'd go
Yes.
drive around to the other bay. Just we were like had privacy, I guess. That was our private shower. Whoa, the bay across the corner.
You know,
And
the bay that we thought the
yeah,
moose was coming out of, and
yeah,
it was just
it's
our
the
goofy
same
dog.
bay.
That's the bay.
Yeah,
It's also the bath bay.
yeah, and so you just shower off the boat, get up, jump in,
Yep.
swim around, stuff like
You
that.
guys love that though. You love jumping off the pontoon boat
Oh
into the
yeah,
water.
it was the best thing ever.
Yeah.
That
And I
pontoon
remember
boat was awesome.
it was early in the spring, and we went for a pontoon boat ride. This was before the guests were in. And so you guys we were going to bath. And so anyways, I think my husband, he was trying to convince you guys to go in because he had the depth finder on and he could see how cold the water was. And the water was only like,
Probably in the
what,
60s,
62,
maybe.
63. And we're like, oh no, it's good, blah, blah, blah. And you guys wouldn't go for nothing. And so either my husband or me jumped in. I think maybe I jumped in. I'm like, no, it's all good. So I jumped in. That water was so cold that when I jumped in, my eyes rolled up the back of my head. But I came out and I'm like, see, it's fine. I was just like so, deadpan. So I was like, oh, okay. Like, we're so mean.
Yeah, so mean. Like
So
no
then you
mercy.
guys,
There's no mercy in this family.
none. So then they're like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll jump. And they jumped in. My son came up and he just started to cry. And there's my husband and I were just killing ourselves laughing, right?
Yeah.
So scoop him up. We had lots of towels. Everybody got warmed up. It was all fun, but like it just fine. But just the goofiest stuff we used to do, honest to goodness. But yeah, that's always fun.
Yeah.
And the odd time we would go over, so there was we called it a little sandy beach. But most of the time, the beach itself, and it was all sand, it was like this purple sand. But most of the time, it was covered in about maybe about a foot of water. Like you couldn't actually see the beach.
I don't know how long it'd be, like 30 to 50 feet.
Yeah.
It was pretty long. It was probably about the same wide.
And it went out into a point.
Little round beach area, and then as soon as you got to the end of it, it just dropped right off. Like just boom.
Dropped right off.
And
like
so some summers
20 feet.
A lot of
like,
it was exposed, like no water, depending on the water level. And some there was about a foot of water, and that was like the place to go, was Sandy Beach. We loved Sandy Beach.
Yeah, because you guys loved trying to run through the water. It looked like you were running on the water.
We'd like race to try and get to the drop off, and whoever fell in first was the winner.
We would take our lawn chairs and plop them in the sand, but you're still sitting in like 6 or 7 inches of water, so your toes are in the sand and like the water, nice and cool. And our dog, who hates the water, we would make him get off the pontoon boat to be in the water because he'd be so hot. And we're like, no, we're going to make you get in this water. So he'd be like, okay. So he's just like trudging. He's lifting his paws up all goofy and trudging along. And he loves ducks and loons and birds and wildlife. Well,
Beavers.
Sure as anything, he was only a couple of years old. Sure as anything, we're at this beach, which goes off into a point, and all of a sudden swims by 2 loons. And Garmin, the dog, gets wind of that. And he looks at them, and his eyes are just like, whoa! And he is so excited. And so he starts to leap. He's leaping like a deer because like the water's about a foot, galloping through the water, and he is getting those things. So he's like, and I think I was sitting on the pontoon boat at this point. We had it beached up on this little beach area. So he is leaping through the water on this beach, and he is going out to get these. And I just remember I just saw 1 leap, 2 leap, no dog, because he leapt right off the edge,
drop off,
and he just sunk like a stone. And I'm like, oh my God, the dog! Oh my God, the dog! So I come running up, jump off the pontoon boat. I start going run over. All of a sudden, Garmin's head pops up and he just gasps for air, and he's just dog paddling to come back. And he was just like, so after that, he was very leery on how far he was going out, but
Yeah.
he had not a hot clue. And I just remember it was just like leap one, leap two, leap, and the dog had just disappeared, just totally
I remember
disappeared.
that as well. He was just gone. It was so funny. It
It was
was
so
it was so funny.
hilarious.
Like the poor guy, like he didn't see it coming and he was underwater, but it was so funny to just see him disappear.
Just
Like
gone, like just gone, not a
yeah.
bubble, nothing, just
Yeah.
gone. And so, but when he came back up and his eyes were as big as saucers and his little dog paddle was just giving her,
Oh yeah.
he was not impressed. And of
No.
course, we laughed and laughed and laughed, and
Yeah.
that's one
That
of
was a
my
good beach
favorite
though.
memories. It
We had
was
a
my
lot of fun
favorite
on
memory.
that beach. We'd do all sorts of things.
Yeah,
We had
all
anytime
kinds
we
of
had like
nice
friends
things.
and family up, we'd go to the beach.
Yeah,
Um it wasn't even anything like crazy. It was just a little point that had
yeah.
some sand on it that we just kind of discovered and it became our place to be. Our
It was
place
a
to
lot of
go.
fun. Yeah, those were. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and nobody else really ever visited that beach because they were all guests. They were all out fishing and whatever.
Yeah.
So when we would have downtime, we would run over to the beach just for like an hour or so, like to let for us all to cool off. Or
Mhm.
if no guests were in, then we might go over for the afternoon or something like that, and take some food and whatever.
Yeah.
But man, that we had, you made your own fun.
Yep.
You
That
make
was
your own fun at a lodge.
the whole thing. A lot of that. I remember, well,
Yeah.
at our first lodge, we had like all these little trails in the back, and I remember this one tree was like my fort, and it was my house, and I did all these things in it. And this was yada 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 yada. And then at our second lodge, I remember I would use the pontoon boat as like a car, and I'd sit in it on the dock, and I'd be driving around, and then I'd be running all over the place, like talking to fake people because there's no people to talk to. It was always a good week when there'd be some sort of kid up because
Yeah.
it didn't happen often because a lot of it was like older
Adults. Yep.
men or
Fishing.
people trying to
Hardcore
get away
fishing.
from their family. Um, but every now and then there'd be some kids that would come up, and usually every year we'd have the same kids come up. So it was always a fun
Yep.
week because they'd be out fishing and then they'd come back and be like, "Want to play games with us? We want to play games with you."
Yeah, you would make some weird games out of tennis rackets and tennis balls, or
Yep,
you'd play some type of baseball game,
yep.
or like croquet. I
We had
mean,
one.
well,
We had one guy. Cause and it was fun too because it was like a place where you could just be whoever you wanted to be. Because when my brother and I were quite
yes,
young, there'd be like teenagers come who were a few years old, like 5, 6 years older than us, and they'd still play with us. Or they
yes.
had younger siblings, or it was a mix. Like it didn't matter how old you were, we all played together, which was really nice. And I remember we were playing tag of some sort, and this one kid, he was pretty tall, and he was running, and we were running around our cabin, and we had about 3 clotheslines out and he didn't see one and he ran and he hit
No.
that thing. He got clothesline right in the neck and he went down. Oh, it was the funniest thing ever because he had no idea it was there.
Oh, that poor
Oh,
kid.
yeah, I know. I can't remember who it was, but he went down hard. It was so funny because I remember if we were driving around on the quad, you always had to duck to get so you didn't catch yourself on it. But we had all kinds of fun. We made like ninja courses, like American Ninja Warrior courses,
Yes, you
and
did.
we had a little tree house that we built and stuff like that.
Yep.
We had all kinds of fun, and then we had different families that would like come up every year, and so half the time we just played games with them. Like they wouldn't
Yep.
even go fishing; they'd just play
Nope.
games with us, and their
Yep.
parents would go fishing or something like that. It was a lot of fun. A
It
lot of
was a
fun.
lot of fun. And you talk about those kids because like my son would have been maybe 6 at the time, and there might be a kid there that's like 15, 16 years old. And that's what I really loved about the lodge was that there was no social pressures.
Yeah,
So it might take a day for these, young kids or like teenagers or whatever. When they first got there, like they would look at my kids and be like, "You're too little, you're 6 and 8." But by the second day, they would be in there because you're not trying to have to look cool for anybody
hmm
your own age. You could just be a kid.
yeah,
And a lot of their family members would be like, "Man, like I haven't seen so and so like this." And I'm like, "That's because they're you don't have to try and be cool for anybody. There's no social expectations on you at the lodge. You can just be a kid." And
yeah. And
and
everything
man,
we
it was
did was
awesome.
was always like wildernessy and stuff, like catching
Yeah.
frogs or just fishing off the dock and stuff like that. So that
Yeah.
was like it was like a common it was something common between all of us. Like even though like my brother and I like we had no other option but to be there. We still like enjoyed it and had fun doing those things, and so they could do those things. Like it was a very common
Yeah.
because like otherwise we have nothing in common with these kids. like
No.
almost all of them are from the States, and they're into all their sports and
Cities,
stuff and cities
right?
and
Larger
all
city
these
centers.
things. And so it was really, really cool to just come and play, go around catching frogs. I remember going around with this one kid, and he was quite a bit older than us, and we'd be catching frogs with him, and him and my brother would be fishing off the dock and all this stuff. And
Yeah.
it was
No,
always
it
a lot
was
of
good.
fun. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
those
nice.
are
It
good
is nice to hear
times.
because I mean, obviously, we'll as we talk about lodge life over many episodes, I'll probably hear some stories that you're going to tell me that I didn't even know, right?
Yeah,
Because I would have been busy doing something else, and you guys would have been out doing
yep.
whatever you're doing.
Yeah, I'd
Um,
spend lots of times in like their cabins playing games with them and stuff, and they
yeah.
always had good snacks. Oh, the Americans have good snacks.
Shout out to all you
Yeah,
Americans and your
that was
amazing snacks.
another thing was that at well, our first lodge we did all the cooking for them, so they kind of
Hmm.
just brought snacks, but not a ton and stuff like that. At our second lodge, they cooked for themselves, did everything for themselves. And I can remember anytime it was a changeover day and dad would take the guests away, if both my brother and I were there, like until he started helping out with stuff, we would like race to see who could get the best snack from the cabin because they'd leave all their groceries, which
They
was
would.
helpful for us because we couldn't always get groceries every week
Hmm.
and things didn't stay fresh very long. But we would just book it to the cabins and run in and out of them and see who could get the better snack and all this stuff. Oh, good times. They always had
That's
fun things.
awesome. Yes, because I mean they're on vacation, so you always get the fun
And
snacks, right?
it's a bunch of guys too, so they get whatever they want.
Oh yeah.
And if they're coming up with their like sons or something, they're just loading up on snacks because mom's out of town. Like, oh, good stuff. It was good stuff.
Because mom's out of
Yeah.
town. It's so
Oh,
true. It's
it
so
is.
true.
It is.
Oh, that is hilarious. Yeah. No, we had a lot of fun. Like it was hard work. Trust me, like you really did work from the time you woke up till the time you went to bed.
Oh yeah.
But we just made our own fun and we had a great time at it.
Yeah.
I was
Like
not
it
sad
was
to
hard sometimes. Like I remember
yeah.
there'd be lots of days where like I'd have nothing to do, and I'm especially when I got older, I had a harder time with it. And I can see like now looking back, I can see why. Like look at me now, I'm much more of a city person, like into
Yeah.
techier things and stuff like that, and just not like I love the outdoors, but that's just not like I'm not an
Yeah.
outdoors person.
I
And so
get
as
it.
I got older, I struggled a lot more with like, oh, there's just nothing to do, and like I mean, you spend every day up there for 14 summers. Like nothing changes. It's you're going to the
No.
same place with the same things. Like everything
Same
we had
toys.
was from 1900 something. Um, so there wasn't much change, which could be kind of it could get boring. But then you learn to do other things. Like I spent a summer learning how to juggle, and now it's my cool trick, and I do it all the time. And everyone's like,
It's your
"Oh,
party
you know
trick.
how to juggle?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I spent a summer learning it." They're like, "Oh." They're like, "What's wrong with you?" I was like, "Well, I had nothing else to do. I lived on an island."
You learned the Rubik's cube, how to solve a Rubik's
Yep.
cube, I think, up there as well.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's hilarious, Ainsley.
Yeah.
It's your party trick now.
But it is my party trick now. But
Thank goodness you
it's
had the
crazy.
lodge.
Thank goodness I had nothing to do for 3 months of my life.
Listen, there's nothing wrong with learning how to be bored as
No.
well and how to cope with being bored.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just have too much like constant options and stimulation for kids.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with learning how to be a little bit bored,
Hmm.
learning out how to solve your problem. Gosh, that was my motto back then. Oh,
Yeah.
solve your problem, solve your
Yeah.
problem, solve your
It
problem.
really was.
Yeah.
I think well also once I got older too, then I could play more card games and stuff. Like you and I
Yeah,
played a lot of cards together.
we
And I
did.
mean, I won't lie, I did love a good rainy day when the generator would be on all day and we could watch TV for a
Could
day.
just
Like because
veg
otherwise, like
out.
at our first lodge, we didn't have any of that really. We had a DVD player, which is where my love of Friends comes from. Because little 6-year-old me was watching every season of Friends rather than a Disney movie because we didn't own any of those. But at our second lodge, we had like no power throughout the day, like nothing unless we turned it on, like this either the batteries for the solar panels, or on a rainy day we'd have the generator on because they weren't charging from the sun. And
And we had
so
satellite TV there. We
yeah,
did break down and get
so
satellite TV. We
um
weren't.
and like we had internet, but we couldn't use a lot of it because it was like a data based internet, so
Yeah.
you only had so many gigabytes for the month.
Hmm.
um but a good rainy day would always be nice because then you could
Yeah.
just veg out and watch TV, which it was
Right.
nice because there was so little of those. So it really
Yeah.
felt like, I was like, oh yeah, like this is such a reward.
It was a treat.
It was a treat. And so that was always a good rainy day. I loved that so much. Or when and sometimes, I mean, like, it's weird too because, like, obviously we didn't have the internet on, but sometimes we would have it on, and that was always like fun too. You're like, oh, I can play my games and stuff. And even though it'd be in stressful times, like if you and dad had to go to town,
Yeah.
and like we would leave the internet on in case they had to get a hold of us or we had to get a hold of them. But then it was always like a little secret, like, ooh, the internet's on all day. Mom and dad are gone. I did my chores. Now I can sit here all day. Or you sit there all day and then you're like, oh, I need to do my chores.
Right. So the first one was like, I did my chores. I can be on the internet now. That's my son. And the second person was like, I'm going to do all that and procrastinate to the very end before my parents get back. That was Ainsley.
Yeah, but it got done.
It got done. And I'm not going to complain. Listen,
and there was a lot of weekends where the responsibilities of turning over the lodge were on just my brother and I, because either the weather was bad, so both you and dad had to take guests to and from town, and we would get that done. And we did that from, like, I can remember like telling him what to do when I was like 11, and it was just the two of us up there getting it done, which like seems crazy, but we were so used to it.
Please don't call Child Family Services.
Oh yeah,
we
no.
were only gone for a few hours. The kids were completely fine.
Maybe 4 hours, and we had the internet.
You had the internet.
Crazy. We knew what to do. We knew how to drive the boats in case anything happened.
These kids had high common sense.
Yes.
Like super, like, versus a lot of kids their age, their common sense, and people would comment on that, on just how much common sense my kids had.
I mean, I won't lie. Living in the city, I have met a few grown adults that I have much more common sense than, and I probably had much more common sense when I was 10 years old.
Back then.
But it's just how you grow up and stuff like that. But yeah, no, we got our stuff done. We did what we had to do. We weren't really. You had to finish your stuff before you could play and things like that. Yeah. So the worst was mowing the lawn.
But you guys were front of house, and like things had to be done. Listen, it was a family run lodge, so the kids had small chores starting out as they got older, and then as they got older, they got more and more responsibility. But it had to be done right the first time. I didn't have time to go back and correct it and this and that. So when my kids had to do a task, they had to do it correctly the first time. We didn't have enough time, and also they were front of the house, so there was no like attitude. There was no having a temper tantrum, because we are front of house. We are the show of this lodge. And so that never happened with my kids. And granted, we didn't let it happen either when they were little. There was no like having a total meltdown because you don't. And I would explain to them, like, you're not doing this. And then they wouldn't. I would listen to them. We would resolve whatever it is. But there was none of that. So they had to get it done, and it had to be right the first time. And because that's just what a family business is, right? And our motto, gosh, we'd be like stacking wood in the fall. It'd just be like a cold, miserable, rainy day. And like my husband and I were like bucking up wood, and I've got like big wheelbarrows full, and we're trying to get it under the cabins to stack it. And you guys had these little push grocery carts, these little old metal, they were long and narrow that you would get. And so you put like your 2 or 3 pieces of wood in it. And so you take yours down. And I can just remember being like, the family that hauls wood together
stays together.
And that was the motto. Everything was, the family that, cleans cabins together
stays together.
Stays together.
Yeah.
That was our motto.
Yeah. Good times, good times.
It was good times. It was.
Yeah. And there's so much more. Like that.
Yeah, we'll get into it.
This will be an everlasting topic.
Yes, it will.
But that's just kind of like a little intro to like what it really was like and stuff like that. Good times and bad times.
Yeah, we'll talk about all the different fun things, all the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yep, that's what it was.
Oh, it was.
That's
awesome.
What it was.
All right, Ainsley, well, let's wrap this up.
Let's do it. Like
you so much for listening to Second Saturday yet again. We so appreciate it.
We do. Like, subscribe, all those fun things. I mean, why not? Please come back. Please.
Well, and Ainsley and I have got to get to a theme park in Dubai.
We got to get to
Dubai. We really need the likes.
We got to get to Universal, so we need you. It's up to you guys now. We have done our part.
We've done our part.
We've done our part. It's your turn now.
It's your turn now. The emphasis all on you.
That's the motivation of this podcast now is Dubai.
I think so. Dubai.
And goodbye.
And goodbye.